verify for the record, Mary, that we have a quorum.
We have a quorum, Peter. Our quorum is 50 delegates, and we've exceeded that. We have 56 voting delegates at the moment, with 5 just to be verified in the waiting room. So if you're happy, we can proceed with the meeting.
That's great. Okay. Well, I do want to say as well, Mary, that it's great to have people from so far around the country available to us, and it is the beauty of having a Zoom meeting that we can have everybody on board from any part of the country, and even from beyond the country where some people might be today, but from all parts of Ireland, and everybody is equally welcome, and we're delighted to have you here. If we have only a couple of people more to let in, Mary, I think we will press on. And I'll turn you over to Sarah Kelly in a moment to give you an idea of how things will run tonight. And we'll try to keep things moving along nice and timely. There will be room for debate should it be required. One of the other beauties of Zoom is that I know that there were preparatory meetings held and discussions held over the last week with delegates and clubs so that you could form your views. Anybody who had, well, Sarah actually will go into the workings of the meeting with us before I get carried away. So I'll turn you over to her now. Sarah, you want to take it away for a while? Thank you.
Thanks a million, Peter. Good evening, everybody. You are very welcome to the 2023 Swim Ireland EGM. As Peter has mentioned, my name is Sarah Kelly. I am the Discipline Support Manager, and I will act as moderator for this evening's meeting. Before we get the EGM underway, I would like to remind you of the following housekeeping rules to ensure the smooth running of the meeting. This meeting is being recorded and will be available for viewing on the Swim Ireland YouTube channel. If anyone would like to avail of live captions, you can do so by turning them on. The button is located on the bottom of your screen, just around the centre. To help us record attendance accurately, we would ask you to change your name on the display. If you haven't done so already, can you please do this now? We would also ask all delegates, where possible, to have their cameras turned on in order to ensure attendance. Delegate microphones will be muted during the meeting. You are welcome to participate in the meeting by submitting questions through the chat function, and I will pose these questions on your behalf or ask you to unmute and pose the question yourself if you wish. If a debate is requested on any of the motions, microphones will be unmuted for those who wish to speak on a motion, and they will need to indicate their desire to participate in the debate by raising your hand or indicating that you wish to do so in the chat function. To use this function, you will need to click on the button labelled Raise Hand, which is located at the bottom right of the window on the screen. You should see it there. Voting will be by way of an electronic poll and will take place directly after each motion is presented. Results will be displayed on screen straight away. Delegate packs are available to download from the chat box, again on your right-hand side. On the right-hand side of your screen, you should see the chat function there. And I'm going to hand back now to Peter Conway, who will formally open the meeting.
Thanks, Sarah, for giving us such a clear picture of where we're headed. And at this point, we're going to get straight down to business. As I mentioned earlier on, the sole agenda item is to vote on 4 motions to change the constitution of Swim Ireland. And I'm going to call on Mary McMorrow to take us through the process and explain the process to us. Mary, over to you.
Thank you, Peter, and hello everybody, and thank you for attending in such large numbers this evening. And indeed, many of you also attended the information that we held last week, and thank you for that. I'm just going to give you a brief overview of proceedings this evening. So we will have 4 separate motions to put to you tonight. There are changes to our constitution, so they're called special resolutions, and any change to a constitution requires a 75% majority of votes cast in favour to pass. We have 2 voting delegates allowed from each club, and each motion will be presented separately. And then you as delegates will be asked if you wish to debate the motion or if you wish to go straight to a vote. If we do decide that any delegate wants to debate the motion, then one voting delegate from each club will be given an opportunity to speak for or against the motion. I'm not saying that everybody has to speak if there's a debate, but anybody who wishes to do so, it's one delegate from each club. And the time period allowed for each speaker will be 2 minutes. At the end of the debate, then, if it is required, the chairperson will call the vote before proceeding to the next motion. And because we're able to do this electronically, take an electronic poll, we will be able to give you the results of the poll immediately. We will be monitoring the quorum at all times to make sure that we remain in quorum, which, as I said earlier, is 50 delegates. And please remember, just a reminder to our panelists, that it's only voting delegates will be allowed to vote. And he will also be running a test poll to make sure that everybody understands how to do it right. So that's just a general overview of proceedings. And Peter, then I'll just hand back to you if you want to introduce the motions, and Andy. Thank you.
Thanks, Mary. At this stage, we're going to turn you over to Andy O'Rourke. And Andy is going to carry out a test on the polling system and then is going to introduce the motions to us and present them in order with a vote or a poll after each motion. Andy, over to you.
Perfect. Thanks, Peter. Okay, so I'm just going to run the test poll now. So this is just to ensure that the polling system is working correctly. So it's a very basic question. It is just with regard to whether you're a registered voting delegate or not. So I'm going to launch that poll now. And hopefully on the screen, you can see EGM 2023 test poll, the question and the yes and no. So if everyone could do that, I'm just going to give everyone just a brief moment or so to do that. And then I will present on the motions. If anyone has any difficulty with this, could they please raise their hand, and one of my colleagues will be able to tell me if there's an issue. Okay. So at this point, I'm going to, if no one has any objections or issues with voting, I'm going to proceed with the presentation of the motions.
You're good to go on this end, Andy. There's no hands
Perfect.
raised or no queries in the chat box in relation to voting on the polls.
Perfect. Thanks, Sarah. So I'm just going to share the results. So everyone should see the results there at the moment on the screen. So that would be the case for each of the motions. Okay. So the first motion is relates to term limits for national standing committees, regional management committees, and the National Water Polo Committee. If passed, the effect of the motion will be that the 4-year limit, which currently exists, after which individuals must step aside for at least 2 years, will be changed to 6 years. The 6 years is the maximum consecutive period allowable, but terms of office will be for 2 years, after which time individuals must seek re-election. There are 3 parts to the motion to ensure consistency across the organisation, and I'm going to go through them very shortly. Please note that the motion does not impact on the terms of office of the Board of Swim Ireland, as it's considered that the current terms are adequate for directors of the company. So on the screen, we've detailed the specifics with regard to the amendments to the Articles of Association, and specifically highlighting the changes that are being made. So with that, I'm going to leave it on the screen, and I'm going to revert back to Peter at this point.
Thanks, Andy. At this point, I'd just like to ask if anybody has any questions, and I don't know whether there are any questions in the chat box, or is there anybody who wishes to have a debate on the motion, or should we just go straight to a vote? If we wish to have a debate, you can notify by a hand wave. Similarly, if you have any questions, you can put them in the chat box, and I'll turn it over to Sarah to see if there are any comments or hand waving in there.
There's nothing at the moment, Peter, if you just want to give it a couple of seconds, but there's no hands raised on my end or any queries.
We'll give it 10 seconds more just to give everybody a fair chance if there's anybody who wants to pop in, and in the absence of anything, we'll go straight to a vote then.
All good on this side, Peter, nothing.
Okay, that's grand. Andy, if you want to go to a poll, please.
Perfect. Thanks, Peter. So everyone should see the motion 1 on their screens. If everyone could please vote on this now, please.
And Mary, I'll just check with you, is that all our delegates having cast their vote? It should be noted that only delegates may vote on any poll.
The majority have, we might just wait another moment or two just to make sure everybody has an opportunity to vote. 1 or 2 people still haven't, but I would remind you that not everybody has to vote either.
That's fine. We'll give it another 20 seconds, Mary. We'll have radio silence for then. Or maybe I might just mention that later on, seeing as we have such a broad group of people from all around our community here, I would hope that our CEO, Sarah, would give us a quick business update at the end of proceedings this evening, time permitting, that she might just give us a brief broadcast. Okay, we can close the poll, please, Andy.
Yeah. Okay.
And do we want to have the results of that first before we move on to the next one, or are we waiting for all 4?
I think we could announce the results.
That's
Peter,
fine. Thanks, Mary.
Because people on YouTube can't actually see the poll, so I think it would benefit them to see the results, or to hear the results rather.
Okay, Andy, you get the pleasure of announcing it.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so we've 93% that have voted yes and 7% that have voted no, Peter.
Okay, so on that basis, the motion is carried. Thank you, Andy. If you'd like to take us on to the next motion, please.
Yeah. Okay, so motion 2 relates to changes to how the Swim Ireland Complaints and Disciplinary Committee, or CIDIC, is appointed. If passed, the main effect of this change will be that the regional nominees to the Swim Ireland Complaints and Disciplinary Committee will be appointed by their regions, not elected. It will also allow the Board of Swim Ireland to appoint 2 independent members to CIDIC, which will give some flexibility if there are matters sent for hearing where there is a significant conflict of interest. So on the screen, you'll see the specific amendments to the Articles of Association, specifically Article 125. I'm going to leave that on the screen again, Peter, for people to view as I hand back to you.
Thanks, Andy. Just looking at my screen, can we just make sure that the results from motion 1 have been filed away before we go to the poll on motion 2, and that motion 2 displays on screen?
You can actually take them off, Peter.
Oh, right. Thanks, Sarah.
Everyone has control of their own, so you can just remove. It should hopefully be an X in the top right hand corner. So if it is still on anybody else's screen, feel free to click the X as well, and it should remove it hopefully from the.
Sarah, I knew that all along. I just wanted, for anybody who wasn't 100% certain, I just wanted to walk them through it. So thanks for playing along. Right, poll number 2, please, Andy.
Okay. Perfect. Okay, so everyone should see motion 2 on their screen and the opportunity to vote yes or no.
Great. We'll give it another 20 seconds there for people to come in. I think we have a fairly strong number in there. Okay, Andy, you can go with the results, please.
Okay. So everyone should see the results on their screen. 95% have said yes and 5% have said no. Peter.
Okay, so on that basis, motion 2 is carried. Thanks a million, Andy. We'll take us on to number 3, please.
Okay, so motion 3 proposes that the reference to the meat licensing committee be removed from the articles, which will mean that regions are no longer obliged to seek nominees to serve on the committee at the annual regional conferences. The effect of the motion will be to give flexibility to the regions in how they manage meat licensing and bring the constitution in line with what is becoming established practice in some of the regions. So again, I have the specifics with regard to the amendments to the Articles of Association, specifically Article 120 and Article 128. So again, Peter, I will leave it on the screen for people to come in and comment if appropriate.
We have nothing on this end, Andy.
Oh, signals, Sarah. Okay.
Yeah, just at the moment. So we'll give another 10 seconds. Just
Yeah.
if anyone does want to raise their hand or pop into the chat box, feel free to do so now. No, we're good to go on this end, Peter. There's no hands raised.
Okay, that's great, Andy. So we'll go through a poll on this, please.
Perfect. So everyone should see motion 3 on their screens and the opportunity to vote.
Great. We'll give it another 20 seconds on display, Andy.
Yeah.
Great. Take us to the result, please, Andy.
Okay. So we've 98% who voted yes and 2% that voted no.
On that basis, the motion is carried. Thank you very much. And we'll take us on to the final motion, number 4, please.
Okay. So motion 4 is a general tidy up of the articles in 6 parts as follows. To replace referencing to synchronized swimming with artistic swimming, to amend the name of the international governing body to World Aquatics, to delete reference to the awards night from Article 1A, as there is no subsequent reference to the awards night in the articles, to remove an inconsistency in relation to the role of the president vis-a-vis the board. There is no change to the position of the president. The wording change is solely to amend an inconsistency. To remove transitionary articles related to previous changes, and to update clause referencing generally throughout the Constitution. So up on the screen is the specifics with regard to the amendments to the Articles of Association. And again, Peter, I'll leave it on the screen for anyone to come in if they would like to comment.
Again, Peter, we'll give it a couple of seconds here, just if anyone wants to.
Yeah, we'll give it another 15 seconds, see if anybody raises a hand.
We do have a hand raised here. So we have Shauna from Laser SC. Shauna, I'm going to ask you to unmute yourself and you can go ahead whenever you're ready.
Perfect. Thanks, folks. Apologies for disturbing proceedings. Fair play. I'll keep it as brief as possible. I just wanted to raise a quick query in relation to item number 3 of motion 4, and the removal of the reference to the awards night being in the gift to the outgoing president to hold it in their own jurisdiction. So I just wondered, will that, I guess, will all award ceremonies then going forward be held in Dublin, or have alternative measures been put in place just to ensure, we'll say, inclusivity across the regions or across the counties?
Could I maybe
Mary,
respond
over
to
to you,
this,
Mary. Yeah.
if that's okay? This deletion is from the definitions, Shauna. It's not an actual article in itself. It's a deletion from the definitions, which I think inadvertently left there at one point. The awards night is not actually referenced in the articles, and there's nothing prescriptive in the articles about the awards night, but this was just inadvertently at some point left within the definitions, and the tidy up is removing it from the definitions. It doesn't impact on where the awards night would actually take place.
Okay, so and okay, but by virtue of the fact that it is a definition, is it not part then of the Constitution?
There's no other reference anywhere else to the awards night. The awards night was, I think it was included in 2018 or 2019 into the articles, but it was later removed because it was felt it was inappropriate for an awards night to be referenced specifically within the articles. So we're not, this is solely a definition, and it doesn't prescribe where the awards night will be held.
All right, that's perfect. Okie dokie, thanks a mil.
Sean, if I could just come in there, though, I think the point is valid, and it has been raised. Thank you, Peter. It has been raised with us previously in relation to, obviously, we held an awards lunch this time during the day as well, as opposed to our evening, and we have taken feedback from the membership in relation to that, and we also have received commentary around, you know, where the awards would take place. So I think I understand the I suppose the substance of your question. So all I would say about that is that matter is under consideration, and we have heard feedback from the membership around it. So I think the point you're making is one that we're aware of.
Great, thank you.
Okay, thanks very much for that, Shauna. And nice to hear a bit of debate going on this evening anyway. We might now, Andy, go to the poll on motion 4, if you could, please.
No problem. Okay, so everyone should see the poll on their screen now.
Okay, we'll give it another 10 seconds there. Okay, Andy, go to the results, please.
Okay, so we have 91% yes, 9% no.
And on that basis, motion number 4 is carried. Before I turn you over to Sarah Keane, our CEO, to share a business update with us, could I just thank everybody again for investing their time this evening, and as we try to move things along in what is a changed and new environment for an awful lot of us. It's great to see that swimming is back up and back in full flow. I'm sure Sarah will touch on a couple of the current issues in what she has to say to us. And again, thank you all for your attendance this evening, both our voting delegates who are online here with us in the meeting, and our non-voting delegates and attendees who are on YouTube. Special thanks as well to everybody from Swim Ireland who was with us on the panel for helping to run smoothly. Thanks very much. Sarah, over to you.
Thanks, Peter. Good evening, everyone. And I also reiterate my thanks to you all for being present. I don't intend to keep you longer than a couple of minutes, but we just thought it might be a useful opportunity just to raise a couple of things on the basis so many of you have taken the opportunity and the time to be with us this evening. So none of these are in any order of priority. I suppose we just wanted to make sure you're aware of a couple of things. I think most of you will have heard or be aware of the statement that Swim Ireland issued today in relation to the upcoming Dave McCullough meet in Bangor, Aurora. So just in case you haven't picked that up, the meet will go ahead in Bangor as planned. There are difficulties around the pool in relation to the format at the moment, but the intention is it will be in 50-metre format. And we will then be liaising, obviously working with Ulster, with Bangor Aurora in relation to that going forward. We are conscious we are due also to have a senior water polo cup in Bangor Aurora at a later date. And if the pool was to remain in 50-metre format, that might cause some challenges, but that's something that we will deal with in due course. But the Dave McCullough meet will go ahead in Bangor Aurora on the relevant date, just to reassure clubs and athletes, coaches, etc., parents who are involved in that, in case you haven't picked that communique up already today. The other thing I wanted to raise with you in relation to this is that we have launched what we're calling a Junior Aquatics Leaders Programme and a Senior Aquatics Leaders Programme. This is part of our youth development work, led by our Head of Safeguarding and Youth Development, Kate Hills. And we have received specific investment from Sport Ireland around this. So this is an opportunity, I suppose, for our athletes to be involved in something that it includes their aquatics, but also develops and recognises specifically other leadership skills, and particularly with the Senior Aquatics Leadership Programme, gives them an opportunity to achieve certain qualifications through it, with investment from Swim Ireland in that. We have had good take up so far, but just in case some of you aren't aware of that, that is something that's been launched and is still open. And if you want more information on that, if you just want to obviously contact Swim Ireland generally or Kate Hills herself. And then the last piece around that, I wanted to reference, you're going to hear next week the Swim Ireland first ever Athletes Commission. If this is the swimming and diving one, we will have a separate water polo athletes commission, but the swimming and diving one is up and running. And there's going to be a full release next week. It's co-chaired by Grania Murphy and Nick Quinn, both retired athletes and, as it happens, both Olympians. But the committee serves the whole membership. That's our intention. And the various committee members will be introduced to you as part of the press release. And then there will be further updates in relation to the work they do. But this is a really important piece for us around the athlete voice. The chairs and the committee will have direct access to the Swim Ireland board, to myself, to the performance director, and to others within who they feel they want to raise matters with. They'll have opportunities to be involved in committees, to be involved in decision making, and they will also have a budget associated with the committee in order, if they want to carry out certain events, to support the wider athlete membership. And their plans, we're getting external help for them to support them in developing their plans and their about what they want to achieve as part of this. So we think that's a really important piece around our suppose our athlete voice in our sport, and our athletes being very clearly involved in decision making at the highest levels. So you'll hear about that next week. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. And as I said, the water polo one will follow then in the next couple of months. From a performance perspective, just let you know, because Olympic qualification opens in the next couple of months. Obviously, the Olympic Games in Paris takes place next year. So the Olympic nominations policy is going in front of the Swim Ireland board for approval next week at the Swim Ireland board meeting on the 24th of January, and will issue in the coming weeks thereafter. So just really bringing that to your attention. And I think recently the European Olympic Festival qualification information has released, but just want to make sure that you are aware of that. And any obviously questions and everything that's around that will be released in due course. In relation to some of what brings for us what we define under our organizational and governance pillars, organizational excellence, I just want to reference a few pieces for you. So one of the things that Swim Ireland has been working on is its transgender policy. Many of you will be aware of the decision by FINA. FINA has now been renamed World Aquatics, just in case some of you aren't aware of that, and LEN will become European Aquatics. But FINA, as World Aquatics, made a decision last year in relation to its transgender policy, which provides that any athletes who have gone through male puberty will not be in a position to compete in the female category at anything to do with world aquatic events across all of the disciplines. That's something that Swim Ireland then, as a member federation, automatically obviously has to follow. But we do have to put in place our own policy that reflects what's happening across the rest of the organisation. So that's something that's been in development for a while. We'll come in front of the Swim Ireland board for discussion and consideration in the next couple of months, and then obviously out to the membership and there has been some consultation. There will be further consultation over the next couple of months, but I just wanted to raise that with you. One of the other pieces is that Swim Ireland is developing an ESG framework. We're the first governing body to do this. And ESG, for those of you, is environmental, social and governmental policy framework. It's a very familiar term to those of you in the corporate world. And underneath that, we will have our sustainability policy. We have our inclusion diversity policy, and various policies around social side of things, governance and environmental. So that framework will issue shortly, and then the more detailed policies, some have issued already and some will issue in due course, and particularly how that might impact on clubs and what work we want to do with clubs around these various issues will be discussed in due course through the clubs and communities team, but just putting that on your radar. And then the last update in relation to this side of the business is that the Swim Ireland website is undergoing or due to undergo a full upgrade. It won't be a new website. It'll be more an upgrade or an update. We're bringing in an accessibility tool to the website, which hasn't been there previously. We're updating and upgrading the search function. And also we haven't been able to put any video content onto the website prior to this, and that will now be changed, and we'll be in a position to update video content onto the website. So hopefully you'll find the website will be, you will see an improvement and feel that it's better suited to our needs as an organisation. In relation to the community and sort of wider participation side of what we do, there's two things that have happened recently and are happening that I just want to bring to your attention. One of those is the Swim Ireland Teachers Conference and Awards that's taking place on the bank holiday weekend. It's the first time in many years that we've held an event for our swimming teachers, and also recognise their contribution in the form of an awards ceremony. So that's really exciting and really important piece for us. Some clubs, it doesn't, in some ways, it might feel it doesn't directly impact on, because some of you are not involved in the earlier stages of Learn to Swim. But in general, most clubs have some form of it. And obviously, strong Learn to Swim programs are very important then as part of the overall pathway. So that's it's something Swim Ireland hasn't been involved in for a long time and is being led by our new head of education, Aisling McKeever. So that'll just wanted to bring that to your attention as well. It kind of follows on from our opportunity to provide extra learning and development opportunities for our coaches last year, but also recognise their contribution. And this is now what we're doing for the teachers. And obviously we will have a further coaches conference later this year. And we will also have one including our water polo coaches also. I also wanted to reference our recent initiative in relation to sanctuary swimmers. Some of you will be aware of it. It's we've partnered with an organisation called Sanctuary Runners, which works with immigrants and refugees to help integrate them into Irish society with dignity, and in line also with an opportunity for them to meet people within their communities. The way that Sanctuary Runners works is that people come together, these immigrants and those of us who've been living here come together and run and learn together and integrate into one community. And we're now doing that in relation to swimming. The swimming piece has been much more challenging because some of these immigrants have come over to Ireland in very difficult circumstances, including in containers and ships. And so some of them have quite a negative view of the water and a negative view of swimming. And this has been an incredible pilot and really inspirational in terms of how some of these individuals have opened themselves to new experiences. And again, things that transcend normal physical activity, but actually really impact on people's lives. So it's just something I want to bring to your attention, because maybe something that our clubs might want to support as well as time goes on. It was a pilot last year, but we're running it we're running it properly as a program now in 2023. So I'm going to finish with three other comments. One is obviously at the Swim Ireland EGM, we will be presenting our Swim Ireland financial statements for 2022 to you. We're preparing for the 2022 audit currently. But Swim Ireland will run to a deficit for 2022. And the good news is that we have received resilience funding from Sport Ireland in December 2022, which will wipe our 2022 deficit, which does set the organisation up well for 2023. Further information and detail on that will follow, obviously, with the financial statements and at the Swim Ireland AGM. But just wanted to note that now, because we are aware of that. The other 2 points is I wanted to reference our pop-up pools. I think hopefully most of you will be aware of these. And I suppose I wanted to connect them with how does this impact on the clubs, and why is Swim Ireland spending time and efforts and staffing resources on pop-up pools, which are not pools that our clubs can swim in. or participate in. So if you're not aware, a pop-up pool is a pool, it's a container. It goes on the back of a lorry, and it's 12 meters long by 3 meters wide, and it's 1 meter deep, and it's fully heated. And these move around to locations where there's no swimming opportunities or no swimming pools. And at this point, the Swim Ireland board took a decision, I think it's 2 years ago now, to look to be very forward thinking, and bought its own swimming pool, this pop-up pool, the first time ever in our 125-year history that we've actually owned a swimming pool. And the government have bought into this and have bought us a second one last year, and they approved the buying of a third pop-up pool in December. But what we're finding is that these pop-up pools are giving us direct access to real grassroots communities in a way potentially that, whilst our clubs have access to a lot of grassroots, the organisation hasn't really had that opportunity. We're meeting a lot of decision makers in the community, local authorities, councillors, politicians, local sports partnerships and others. And it really is, I suppose, creating a greater voice for Swim Ireland to talk about the challenges our clubs and others face in relation to access to swimming opportunities, primarily in pools, but also in the open water. So there is a direct correlation for us in building these relationships and creating these swimming opportunities, not just because we have to, as a governing body, be trying to create swimming opportunities generally, but it also creates opportunities for us to raise the wider issue our clubs have in relation to swimming pool infrastructure. I'm in Swim Ireland as a CEO a long time, and this is the biggest issue that is facing our organisation now, and it was 20 years ago. And it's one we really, it's not one we've been able to crack, and it's one that's really challenging. But for the first time now, we're actually in a position where we're talking to decision makers in relation to swimming pool access, both indoors and outdoors. And it's also the first time in Swim Ireland's history that it has infrastructure as a pillar, a specific pillar of the Swim Ireland strategic plan. You will hear a lot more about this at the AGM and as we go on. It was referenced at the Swim Ireland AGM last year, but actually the traction we're getting has been particularly great from our perspective, in terms of we're actually in discussions at the moment with the sports capital section of the Department of Sport around bringing back the opportunity to apply for funding to upgrade, to refurb swimming pools, and indeed for these pop-up pools and what we're calling modular swimming pools. These are permanent pools, they're above ground pools, and they're much cheaper to bring in, and they're much more sustainable and cost efficient in terms of running. And actually, what we would like to see in the future, and this would be our vision also, just to raise it with you, we would like to see clubs, or some of our clubs, being in a position to purchase with us these pools and to run these pools, to provide that greater access that we're challenged to get in the current infrastructure across the island, but particularly in the Republic of Ireland. So there is a lot of vision around this. It won't be easy to bring it to fruition, but there is an element of looking to take charge of our own destiny in this regard. And we are now really on track to see if we can make this happen. We're also very conscious that we've no 50-metre pool in Connacht, and this is one of the ways that we see that we have an opportunity to potentially bring that there too. And we also know that we've Cork who are very interested in that also. So I just wanted, I suppose, bring that to your attention. It's not something we talk about day to day. It's not something you're going to get a lot of emails about, but we will talk again in more depth about that over the coming months. And I'll finish by stating that hopefully most of you are aware that the government is working on a national swimming strategy. There was over 6,000 responses from the public in over the 3 weeks of the public consultation that they had, which was an incredible, the department has never received that level of response in relation to any survey that they have issued out. So that's been really important and brilliant response by our community, the wider community of those who are in clubs and those who are not in clubs, in relation to how important swimming and the life skill of swimming is. But I do want to ensure that we help manage expectations around this national swimming strategy. The national swim strategy is primarily going to be around opportunities for swimming. It's not necessarily going to reference the other aquatic disciplines, even though there has been some discussions at the meetings around these areas. It's not necessarily specifically going to call out clubs. It's primarily going to concentrate on learn to swim and swimming pool infrastructure. But the fact that it's going to be a national swimming structure, a national swimming strategy approved by the government when it's issued, it will have an impact ultimately on our sport, one that we think can be transformational in the long run, particularly in relation to infrastructure. So thank you very much for all staying on to listen to me. I'm happy to obviously take any questions, Peter. I'm conscious of people's time, but I just wanted to take that opportunity to give you some of those updates when you've very kindly taken the opportunity and time out of your day to be here with us this evening. Thank you.
Sarah, thanks very much for that. As ever, when Sarah Keane gets the opportunity to have one slide to discuss with us, she tends to give us enough information that we could run 5 or 6 seminars off it. Really, what that highlights to me in one page is really the amount of projects that are going on in so many different areas within Swim Ireland. And just for one brief moment, on behalf of the board, I would like to thank both Sarah and all the team for all of the pieces that they're pulling together at the moment. The view of the organization has expanded, and we've looked towards the horizons. We've taken our heads up and looked in a more broad spectrum over the last while, and looking to the future. And I really want to commend Sarah and the team and thank them for all their efforts on that. Again, on behalf of, I'd say on behalf of the board, but also on behalf of the Swim Ireland team that are here tonight, I would like to thank everybody for being on here as delegates. And I have one other little job to do. I just need to check that Sarah Kelly is still with us.
I am indeed, Peter.
That's
yes.
grand, Sarah. I just one little piece in your role as moderator that I just want to check that you're satisfied with the way that the polls are run. I just want that on the record this evening, that you're happy with the way that the polls are run as moderator.
Yes, absolutely, Peter. Yeah,
absolutely. All right. A huge thanks to everybody for being here this evening. Thanks to everybody who made it run so smoothly, and in particular those who laid the foundation in the preparatory meetings last week or thereabouts. And on that note, I'm going to sign off and leave you. Thanks very much, folks. Good night.